I was sitting at the same scratched wooden table where I had eaten breakfast every morning for the past 3 years, watching my mother Margaret arrange the birthday flowers I had brought her. The late afternoon sun streamed through the thin curtains of her small apartment, casting long shadows across the room. She turned to me with that familiar look of disappointment and said the words that had defined our relationship for decades. "You will never be as good as your sister Jessica." The words hit me like they always did, but this time, something felt different. This time, I was not going to just sit there and take it. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. And hit that like button if you have ever felt overlooked by family. Trust me, what I said next changed everything between us. Living in Denver had never been part of my original plan, but life has a way of reshaping our dreams. At 28, I found myself working at a small insurance company downtown processing claims and handling customer complaints for 45 hours a week. The work was steady, reliable, and it paid just enough to cover my modest one-bedroom apartment and still send $800 every month to my mother. This monthly transfer had become as routine as my morning coffee, an unspoken agreement that had formed naturally after my father passed away 5 years ago. My mother, Margaret, had moved from our family home in Ohio to this smaller apartment just 20 minutes from mine. At 58, she claimed she wanted to be closer to family, though we both knew the real reason was financial. My sister Jessica, 4 years my senior, lived a completely different life in New York City. She was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm, the kind of person who wore designer suits and attended networking events with names I could not pronounce. Her Instagram was filled with photos from expensive restaurants and weekend trips to places like Martha's Vineyard and the Hamptons. The comparison between Jessica and me had started early in our childhood. While I struggled with math homework at the kitchen table, Jessica was winning science fairs and earning perfect attendance awards. When I came home with a B+ on my report card, my mother would inevitably mention Jessica's straight A record. During high school, I played clarinet in the school band, while Jessica was student council president and valedictorian. The pattern was clear and unchanging. Jessica was the shining star, and I was the steady, dependable one who never quite measured up. When our father was diagnosed with lung cancer, the family dynamics became even more apparent. I immediately applied for family leave from my job and spent 6 months caring for him, driving him to chemotherapy appointments, and managing his medications. Jessica visited twice during his entire illness. Both visits lasted less than 48 hours because she had important cases to work on, or crucial meetings she could not reschedule. During those difficult months, she would call every few weeks to check in, always mentioning how demanding her career was and how she wished she could do more. After the funeral, Jessica stayed for 3 days to help sort through paperwork and decide what to do with the family home. Then she flew back to New York, leaving me to handle the estate, clean out the house, and figure out what our mother needed going forward. The house sold 6 months later, and the proceeds were just enough to cover the remaining medical bills and give our mother a small savings account. Jessica suggested that our mother move closer to me, since I had more flexible work arrangements. That was how I ended up becoming the primary support system for a woman who never seemed to appreciate what I did for her. Every month, $800 automatically transferred from my checking account to hers. I paid her rent, covered her groceries when she ran short, and handled her medical copays when Medicare did not cover everything. Meanwhile, Jessica sent occasional text messages and called every few weeks, always making sure to mention her latest professional achievements or the exotic vacation she was planning. Today was supposed to be special because it was my mother's 58th birthday. I had spent 2 weeks of my lunch breaks researching the perfect gift, finally settling on a $200 spa package at a local wellness center. I knew she complained about her back pain and thought a day of massage and relaxation would be something she could truly enjoy. I had even taken the entire day off work, planning to spend it celebrating with her. When I arrived at her apartment that morning with fresh flowers and her wrapped gift, I found her sitting in her favorite armchair, scrolling through her phone with a slight frown. She looked up as I entered and managed a small smile, accepting my hug and the bouquet of yellow roses. As she unwrapped the spa package, I watched her face carefully, hoping to see genuine excitement. Instead, she nodded politely and thanked me in the same tone she might use with a grocery store cashier. Jessica sent me such a sweet message this morning. She said, holding up her phone to show me a simple text that read, "Happy birthday, Mom." You should really learn from her how to express feelings better. The comment stung, but I tried to focus on the positive. We had the whole day ahead of us, and I was determined to make it memorable for her. Little did I know that this birthday would indeed become unforgettable, just not in the way I had planned. The morning had started peacefully enough, But by early afternoon, the familiar patterns of comparison had begun to emerge. My mother decided she wanted to call Jessica to thank her for the birthday message, and I watched as she dialed the number with obvious excitement. She put the call on speaker, something she always did when talking to Jessica, as if she wanted the whole world to witness her successful daughter's busy, important life. Jessica answered after several rings, and I could hear the sounds of a busy office in the background. "Thanks, Mom," she said quickly, her voice slightly distracted. "I got your message about dinner tonight, but I have got to run. Important client dinner that could make or break this case. You understand how it is?" The call lasted less than 2 minutes, and when it ended, my mother sat back with a satisfied expression. "See how dedicated she is," my mother said, looking at me with that familiar tone of instruction. "That is what success looks like." She always puts her career first, and look where it has gotten her. I felt my jaw clench slightly, but I managed to keep my voice level when I responded. "I took the entire day off for your birthday," I said quietly. "I thought we could spend some real time together, maybe go to that new restaurant you mentioned, or take a walk through the park." "Well, that is different," she replied without missing a beat. "Your job is not as demanding as Jessica's. You can afford to take days off. She has real responsibilities, important clients who depend on her. It is not the same thing at all. The dismissal of my work, my commitment, and my choice to prioritize her birthday hit me harder than I expected. I had been working in insurance for 6 years, had earned 2 promotions, and consistently received positive performance reviews. I took pride in helping people navigate difficult claims and ensuring they received the support they needed during challenging times. But in my mother's eyes, it would never measure up to Jessica's corporate law career. As the afternoon wore on, the conversation inevitably turned to money. My mother mentioned that her electric bill had been higher than usual this month, $180 instead of the typical $120. She said it with a slight frown, the way someone might mention an unexpected expense that was causing them stress. "Do not worry about it," I said, pulling out my phone to transfer the extra $60 immediately. "I will take care of it like always." The transaction took less than 30 seconds, and I showed her the confirmation screen to put her mind at ease. "Jessica always tells me I should be more independent," she said, accepting my payment, but somehow making it sound like a criticism of my generosity. "She is right, you know. I should not be relying on anyone else to handle my finances. She is so wise about these things, always encouraging me to stand on my own 2 feet." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Jessica says you should be more independent," I repeated slowly. "But when was the last time Jessica actually sent you money to help with these bills?" My mother looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her phone case. "She has her own life to manage," she said defensively. "A big life with important responsibilities. Not everyone can have that kind of success, you know. She works so hard for everything she has achieved." I was quiet for a moment, processing what she had just said. I had been sending $800 every month for 3 years. That was $28,800 of my own money that I could have used to fix my aging car, take a vacation, or build a proper emergency fund. And my mother was telling me that Jessica, who had never sent a single dollar, was giving her advice about financial independence. "Maybe if you worked harder like Jessica," my mother continued, "you would not have these kinds of problems. I was just telling you last month about needing to save up $1,200 to fix your transmission. If you had a better job, a more ambitious attitude like your sister, you would not be struggling with car repairs. I work 45 hours a week." I said, my voice starting to rise despite my efforts to stay calm. "I handle my responsibilities, I pay my bills, I help you with yours, and I still manage to maintain my own life. What exactly do you think I should be doing differently? Jessica works 70 hours a week and still finds time to stay in touch." She shot back. "She calls me, she sends messages, she checks on me even when she is incredibly busy. She makes time for family, despite having a much more demanding schedule than you do. Stay in touch." I could not keep the frustration out of my voice anymore. "When was the last time Jessica called you without you calling her first? When was the last time she asked how you're doing, instead of talking about her latest case or her newest client?" My mother's face flushed with anger. "You are just jealous," she said, her voice sharp and cutting. "You have always been jealous of your sister's success, her drive, her accomplishments. That is why you try to tear her down, instead of celebrating what she has achieved. The truth is, you will never be as good as your sister, and the sooner you accept that, the better off you will be." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. 28 years of feeling second best. 28 years of being the reliable one who never got the recognition. 28 years of quietly supporting everyone else while being told I was not enough. Something inside me finally snapped. I stood up from my chair so quickly that it scraped against the floor with a harsh sound. My mother looked startled, probably because I had never reacted so strongly to one of her comparisons before. I had always absorbed her criticism, quietly, internalized her disappointment, and tried harder to earn the approval that seemed to come so easily to Jessica. "You know what, Mom," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the rage coursing through my veins. "You are absolutely right about everything. Jessica is amazing. She is successful. She is everything you have ever wanted in a daughter." My mother nodded, apparently thinking I was finally admitting defeat and accepting my inferior position in the family hierarchy. "Good," she said. "I am glad you are finally being realistic about your situation. It is not healthy to compete with someone who is so obviously out of your league. If I will never be as good as Jessica," I continued, "then maybe I should stop trying. Maybe I should stop wasting my time and energy attempting to measure up to someone who is clearly superior to me in every way." My mother smiled, satisfied that her lecture had finally gotten through to me. "And since Jessica is so amazing, so successful, so much better than me at everything, I think you should ask her to pay your bills from now on." The smile disappeared from my mother's face instantly. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I said you should ask Jessica to pay your bills." I repeated louder this time. $800 every month for rent, groceries, utilities, medical copays. Ask your perfect daughter to handle all of that since she is so much more capable than I am." The room went completely silent. My mother stared at me as if I had just spoken in a foreign language. The afternoon sunlight streaming through her windows suddenly felt too bright, too harsh, illuminating the shocked expression on her face. "That is not," she began, then stopped. "Jessica works very hard," she manages to say. "She has expenses, responsibilities. Do you know," I said, walking over to her small dining table and leaning against it, "that Jessica has not sent you a single dollar since Dad died 5 years ago? Not one penny. She knows I send you money every month, and she has never once offered to contribute or help out." "That is not true," my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Jessica cares about me. She calls, she checks in. Every month without fail, I transfer $800 from my checking account to yours." I continued relentlessly. "Your rent is $600. Groceries usually run about $150. Utilities average $75. Medical copays and prescriptions add up to another $50 or $60. I pay for all of it." My mother opened her mouth to protest, but I was not finished. "Last Christmas, do you remember that expensive perfume set you got from Jessica? The one from Nordstrom that came in the beautiful white box with the gold ribbon?" "Of course," she said. "It was lovely. Jessica has such good taste." "I bought it," I said quietly. "Jessica called me 3 weeks before Christmas, said she was swamped with work, and asked if I could handle your gift. She sent me $50 and asked me to find something nice, wrap it, and ship it with a card from her. I spent $200 on that perfume set because I wanted you to have something special." The color drained from my mother's face. "You are lying," she whispered. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, turning the screen toward her. "Here are my bank statements for the last 3 years, I said. "Every monthly transfer to your account. $800 like clockwork. Show me one deposit from Jessica. Just one." My mother took the phone with shaking hands, scrolling through months and months of transactions. Every entry clearly showed money leaving my account and going to hers. There were also smaller amounts, the extra $60 for higher utility bills, emergency transfers when she needed prescription medications, money for car repairs, and unexpected expenses. "Call Jessica right now," I said, my voice growing stronger. "Ask her when she last sent you money. Ask her how much she contributes to your living expenses. Go ahead and call your perfect daughter." With trembling fingers, my mother dialed Jessica's number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. A few seconds later, a text message appeared on her phone. "Cannot talk right now at a charity gala, will call you tomorrow." "A charity gala," I said, unable to keep the bitter irony out of my voice. She is donating money to strangers, while her own mother depends on her other daughter's support. "That is your perfect Jessica for you." My mother set her phone down on the coffee table and stared at it as if it might provide some explanation for what she was learning. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of traffic from the street below and the quiet hum of her ancient refrigerator. "I did not know," she said finally, her voice small and hollow. "I thought Jessica was just private about money matters. She never mentioned whether she was helping or not, so I assumed she was handling things in her own way. She is private about everything that involves actually helping." I replied, sitting back down, but keeping my distance. Jessica is great at giving advice about independence and responsibility, but when it comes to actually taking action, she is always too busy, too important, or too stressed. My mother looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine uncertainty in her eyes, instead of the usual disappointment. When your father was sick, she said slowly, Jessica said she would help with the hospital bills. I remember her mentioning it during one of our calls. I paid those bills, I said quietly, all $12,000 of them. Jessica said she would look into setting up a payment plan, but then she got busy with a big case. So I emptied my savings account and put the rest on credit cards. It took me 2 years to pay off those credit cards, and I never said a word about it because I did not want you to worry about money on top of everything else you were dealing with. The weight of this revelation seemed to settle on my mother's shoulders, like a heavy blanket. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Why did you not tell me sooner? She asked. Because you would not have believed me, I answered honestly. Jessica can do no wrong in your eyes. She is the golden child, the success story, the daughter you are proud of. I have been the reliable one for so long that everyone, including me, forgot I deserve recognition too. My mother opened her eyes and looked at me, really looked at me perhaps for the first time in years. I took your loyalty for granted, she admitted. I was so busy being proud of Jessica's achievements that I forgot to appreciate your sacrifices. I chased after her approval while ignoring the daughter who was actually here, actually helping, actually caring for me every single day. For the next hour, we talked more honestly than we had in decades. My mother asked me about my job, my goals, my life outside of being her caretaker and Jessica's shadow. I told her about the promotion I was hoping for, the vacation I had been planning to take next year, the creative writing class I had wanted to enroll in but could not afford. She listened without comparing me to Jessica or suggesting ways I could be more like my sister. 2 weeks later, Jessica finally called back. I was visiting my mother when the phone rang, and she put it on speaker out of habit. Jessica sounded slightly annoyed when my mother mentioned needing help with some upcoming medical expenses. I cannot just write checks, Mom, Jessica said impatiently. I have investments to consider, mortgage payments, retirement planning. You need to understand that my financial situation is complicated. Maybe you should look into government assistance programs or something. My mother glanced at me, and I saw understanding dawn in her eyes. She was finally seeing the dynamic that I had been living with for years. Jessica was willing to give advice and empty encouragement, but when it came to actual support, she always had an excuse. I think I understand now, my mother said after the call ended. I spent so many years believing that love meant being proud of someone's achievements that I forgot love is really about being present when someone needs you. Over the following months, our relationship began to change. My mother started expressing genuine appreciation for the support I provided, both financial and emotional. She stopped making comparisons to Jessica and began asking about my own dreams and aspirations. I decided to set some healthy boundaries around the financial support I provided, ensuring that I could still help her while also taking care of my own needs. We also had an honest conversation with Jessica during one of her rare visits home. When confronted directly about her lack of financial contribution, she became defensive and then angry, claiming that she had never been asked to help and that she had assumed I wanted to handle everything. The conversation did not go well, but it cleared the air about expectations and responsibilities going forward. Sometimes the child who stays is not the one who settles for less. They are the one who loves the most. Real love is not about being perfect or achieving the most impressive accomplishments. It is about showing up, being present, and caring for people, even when it is inconvenient or difficult. I learned that my worth was not determined by my mother's comparisons or Jessica's achievements. I was valuable because of my own choices, my own kindness, and my own commitment to the people I cared about. The relationship between my mother and me will never be perfect, but it is honest now. She no longer expects me to be Jessica, and I no longer try to earn love by being someone I am not. We have both learned that family is not about competition or comparison. It is about mutual respect, genuine appreciation, and the willingness to support each other through both good times and challenges. Have you ever felt like you were constantly being compared to a sibling or family member? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about family dynamics and personal growth. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that their worth is not determined by comparisons to others. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your value comes from who you are not, who others think you should be. I hope you find the courage to stand up for yourself when you need to, just like I finally did.